Whether or not you've just picked up Stellaris for the first time or you're a returning player, welcome to 2.2 Le Guin. Now, Stellaris has quite a lot of expansions for it available. It's been out on the market for about 2.5 years now. Therefore, for that reason, we're just going to be playing with the vanilla game. So all you'll need to have for this particular video, or at least to understand the contents of the video, all you need is the Stellaris base game. There are individual videos available, or going to be available, on the channel discussing how to start with the various different factions that are available through the different expansions. But for now, we're going to be talking about just the vanilla game, and that'll be that. Now, for the sake of ease, I've structured this video in 7 different parts. The interlude, which is what you're listening to right now. The interface, which is the first segment coming up. The first moment in the game. Exploration, expansion, exploitation, and extermination. If you are looking for these particular parts of the video, the links are in the description below to the exact time codes for you to find them. So let's start taking a look at the interface, how everything is set up, how everything is deployed, and making heads and tails of everything. First of all, we're going to be doing everything today on the United Nations of Earth. It is a default race that is available in the Select Empire screen, and just so you have a reference to know what's going on. They're also a fairly easy species to roll into. They've got great traits, they've got great abilities, and they've got a bunch of other stuff, and we will go into that as we go on. Of course, there's going to be a separate video. There is a separate video of how to create the species and how they are set up. So with the species select, we're on the game detail screen. If you have a relatively low spec machine, and you will know if you have one, feel free to set the empire size to either medium or small. There's actually is not a small. Medium is the smallest, or large or huge with 1,000 stars. Medium is nice to get into because you can get around relatively quickly. Galaxy size and shape is not really all that important. I personally like to play with spiral. Considering this is a starter game, a tutorial of sorts, let's turn off all advanced alien empires, and let's leave the default AI empires off. All the other stuff is not really all that important. Tech and tradition is actually kind of nice to just lower that and just getting a feel for the way tech works. Habitable worlds, so it's easier for you to find new worlds to colonize. All the other stuff is not really all that important for this particular setup, except for maybe difficulty. If you are a starter player, you may want to play on either cadet or ensign, and if you want to be a little bit more challenged and you've played Paradox games before, maybe captain will do, but I do not recommend going for Grand Admiral straight away because it will be a bit of a challenge. Finally, what is probably interesting as well is the guaranteed habitable worlds setup. And basically what happens here is that you will always be guaranteed to have 2 worlds next to your starting system that you can colonize relatively early on. Good. With all the game's details set up, it's time for us to jump into the game and see how our first years in Stellaris will go. So, welcome. It is the 1st of January, 2200, and we're going to take a look at how the interface looks. Initially, as you start the game, you will basically have this particular screen in front of you. It's relatively straightforward, however, there is a couple of main pop-outs. First of all, there is our general overview of our species. Who is our leader, what do they do, and what do they have available to them? Their ethics, we will go into that a little bit later. The civics, we will also go into that later, and its traits, and etc. Then there is a whole bunch of fluff text. That's not really all that interesting. It doesn't really add all that much. It's more for role-playing purposes. So let's begin and take a look at the rest of the UI. There's our solar system. There is Sol. As you may have noticed, the game, as it says on the top right, is paused. This is a pausable real-time strategy game on a grand scale. better known as a grand strategy game. We've got our top line interface of our resources. We're going to be talking about those once we get into our first steps. Our advanced resources, these two, the influence and unity, research, strategic resources, and various empire-related items that we'll go into as such. The outliner will be our main tool to get around our empire. For instance, our capital world of Earth is listed here, and basically we can click on some of these items to directly interface with them, etc. Then there is the outliner bar on the left side for the various menus that we can go into. For instance, our contacts, if we find another species, a situation log for special events, market, which is a market, planets and sectors, which is not really all that important for us right now. Expansion planner, we will take a look at that. Policies, edicts, traditions, we will get to that once we get a little bit of unity. The ship designer, the fleet manager, technology, and a bunch of other stuff that it does not really apply to this tutorial. So we got these three icons on the top bar. Every single notification will happen on this top bar. So let's take a look at what we have. Well, for our first science, once we click on it, every single of these categories is a science subject. So we got ourselves physics, society, and engineering. Now, right now, we've got physics selected, so we have the opportunity to research one of these. Now, it may be really interesting to go for global energy management, but overall, it's probably not a good idea because of the cost of the building. Therefore, it's probably a better idea to go for research, physics research from researchers plus 20%. In this case, the tech tree in Stellaris is completely randomized by tiers. So there's 5 tiers in total, and every single tier has a certain amount of text that can be randomized and you can run into them. You will not unlock the next tier until you have a certain amount of technologies research on the tier that you're currently on. So please be aware of that. The text you are going to get during your playthrough will not be the same as here. Society research, a really good one to start off with, I find, is planetary unification, because it will give us a resource plus 2 a month for free, which is great. And finally, engineering. In this particular case, it's probably the best to go for the cheapest one, which is tech, in this case, nanomechanics. So we get a boost to our technology production. So that is basically the interface. And before we move on, there is, of course, the galaxy map down here, which allows us to see where we are in the galaxy by just moving around using the scroll wheel and basically that. Down at the bottom is a bunch of stuff that will not be relevant unless we find another empire. We got our control groups here. If you want to use control groups, that's just your standard. Let's say that we have our combat fleet selected here. I want to put it under control 5. Control 5 will now be selected, and that's our first fleet. But obviously, we already had that selected through our number 2 button here as well. We won't be able to clear it. That is a bit of a problem. We can actually remove the hotkey right here. So we right click on it and remove, and it will be gone. So this is our capital, our first fleet, our science ship, and our construction ship. This is only for people that want to play with hotkeys instead of just moving around the interface. Then there's some stuff down here, some detail map modes, a go-to button, searching for certain systems. You can also use the button F for that, the help button, which will take you to the Stellaris wiki, which is rather useful. Yes, the game has a full internet browser built in, and of course the main menu, but you can also hit escape. So, the interface is done. So let's move on to our next item. Our very first moments in space. So usually you would not need this entire discussion regarding the interface. We can get started immediately. Notice that we haven't unpaused the game yet. We are basically a solid 6-7 minutes, 8 minutes even, into this video, and we still have not done anything. So let's take a look at what we have available to us. So let's go to Earth. Earth overall seems to be fairly okay. The planet itself is divvied up in districts, and you can have a maximum amount of 16 of these due to its planet size. And these districts are currently, we've got a reasonable amount of them being used. So they're split in city districts, which will generate jobs, generator districts, which will generate jobs that will generate energy, mining districts, same thing, but for minerals, and agricultural district for food. That should be relatively straightforward. Basically, every single one of these is a structure that will generate a new pop or at least a new job that a pop can populate. Now, what is a pop, you may ask? Well, if you go into the population tab, you will see that we currently have a certain amount of people on this planet. 24 of them, to be exact. And they're working in all sorts of jobs, like workers, for instance, are working on clerk jobs, which will generate us trade value or amenities. Amenities are listed like here. We got a bunch of farmers that are producing food. Those are being listed up here. We have minerals from generated from miners, which is listed up in here. We got some technicians that are generating energy, which is listed up here, minus the amount of material that we are actually consuming. In addition, there is the housing modifier. So if we quickly go back to what's a planetary summary, housing should always be in the plus because, well, if there's no place for people to live, they will get unhappy and crime will increase and stability will decrease. And that, of course, is a problem, and that right there is important. Then we've got our jobs, how many jobs there are available versus the amount of pops that are available. It's always important to make sure that we have an equal amount of jobs to an equal amount of pops. Never try to overdevelop your setup. We got, of course, a city district. We could build one if you want for more housing, a energy district if you want more energy, a mining district if you want more minerals, and of course food for the agricultural district. Right now, however, we don't have the resources to do so because we need 200 minerals. So building anything on planet right now is not really an option. We can't even build one of these special buildings. But we'll go into those a little bit later because these are a little bit more expensive. Finally is the total output of this planet, this particular tab. You'll most likely not see this because it is going to be fixed in the 2.2.2 patch, that's right, and it will be a lot more straightforward when it comes to what a pop actually produces. So for instance, this guy produces food, but they use, of course, consumer goods. Anyway, we'll go into the economy a little bit deeper later on once we build our first building on the planet, because right now we don't have the materials for to do that. However, we do have materials for other things. Let's quickly go into our outliner on the side here. First of all, our construction ship. Our construction ship is what builds our infrastructure, and it's very important to the up and running of our empire. So as you can see on the galactic map mode is that we have 3 minerals in space. And that is great because it means that we can use this construction ship to build a mineral production center somewhere. So let's have a quick look at where it actually is. It could be just hanging around here. There's Make. Is it on Make? No, it's not on Make. Man, it seems to be hiding somewhere. I must be blind. There it is. It's on Luna. Okay, fair enough. So let's build a mining station over at Luna, and our construction ship will start moving out. Notice how we still have not unpaused yet. That's right, we are now almost 15 minutes into this video, and we still have not unpaused things. So let's go and take a look here at our science ship. Our science ship is the discovery system of the game. And Stellaris is incredibly strong in its setup when it comes to finding and basically researching stuff. The exploration phase at the start of the game is really good, and we're about to go into that in first exploration phase. So instead of just randomly clicking on a star and saying, hey, I would like to survey this system, first of all, we're going to do, we're going to make sure our science ship is selected, hit the shift key, and then click on this button here, which is survey, and then we can just click whilst holding the shift key on systems, and we will send our science ship over there in order to find out if anything cool is sitting in space. Now, on the galactic map, you will find that every single area in space is set up in these little clusters. They're called constellations, and every single constellation is an independent area that you should probably get under control before other species do. But we'll get into that into another video because, well, it's time to unpause because, well, it's always good to see that stuff. So our science ship right now is on his way. I've turned the speed up a little bit. Yes, there are multiple speed modes in this game. We can even go fastest. Fastest is based on the power of your CPU. The more power you have on your CPU, the better. And our ship will now start jumping to its first destination. There it goes. And it has arrived in the MOA system. Let's see if there's anything interesting in this system. So our science ship right now will just start doing its scanning, see if it can find anything. And what thing we're looking for is, in fact, anomalies. Now, What are anomalies, you ask? Well, anomalies are special events that pop up on planets that scientists can research for new bonuses or make bonuses appear on these planets. And we do that through surveying. However, we are also very much in luck, because our leader, Dolores Muaganda, has a explorer trait that applies to every single explorer in our empire. In 4 years' time, she will be cycled out during the election, but for now we will have a plus 33% research speed bonus on anomalies, and on top of that, our science ships will cost a lot less, which is great. On top of that, we can also build outposts for cheaper, which is a really good deal. And also, starbase influence cost has been reduced. But we'll get into that once we get into the expansion phase of the game. So right now, we're just waiting for our first things to get discovered. We can take a look at our construction ship, how it is doing. It is currently building this this station over Luna. We click on it. You can see it's almost done.
Construction
there
complete.
we go, and it is done. So now it's time to make it move on, or we can decide to have it mine resources somewhere else. We still have a bunch of cool resources in Solar available, specifically energy. At the start of the game, you don't really want to go for the science stuff. You just want to make sure you get all your energy as well as your minerals in your space set up properly so that you can essentially make sure that you have enough wiggle room in order to build more in the long run. So for now, the tech is not really all that important. Just let's get the base resources first. Now our science ship is well on its way. However, I feel that we could potentially use a little bit of a helper. Now, we could build this mining station, which is exactly what we're going to do, just to get this energy here. The thing is that, well, we should get another helper here for our friend Lorena Velcazo. So let's click on our Sol Station shipyard. We go to the shipyard tab, and let's build another science ship for 75 alloys. Alloys are an advanced material in the game, and basically every single spaceship and station is based on alloys. So the more alloys we have, the bigger of a fleet we can build, etc. And alloys are being produced on our planet. So if we go quickly into our specialist area, we can see that for 12 minerals, we're getting 4 alloys a month. Basically, the ratio here is a 1 to 3. For every 3 minerals, we can get 1 alloy, which by itself is not half bad, to be honest. But I do think that we could do better in that regard. We could produce more alloys in the long run, which is what we're going to be doing. Our first building on Earth is in fact going to be a new alloy foundry. But once we get there, once we have the materials to do so, we'll talk about that. Okay, so our science ship is just gotten off the production line. That's good. And we have found ourselves, ooh, a strategic resource. So a strategic resource is something that you can find in this category. They are early to mid-game items that are necessary for long-term production, or at least intense production. Right now, we can't actually use them because we have no tech to exploit them. However, having them in our space is incredibly useful because it will give us a 1-up. We can generate these things on planet as well through special facilities such as the alloy foundry, but in that case, the gas mine. And that will allow us to get those resources on board. Anyway, we got the science ship, and we want to assign a new leader to it by hitting the assign leader button. But we have a problem. We do not have enough energy to get this thing going. Thankfully, we only need 200 energy in total. And on top of that, we've timed our science ship production in such a way that in right about 3, 2, 1, and go. And we can get our scientist. So we click on the scientist, it will automatically be assigned to the ship. Now, in the meantime, let's take a quick look here. Where is our initial scientist going? It's taking this route. So our other scientist is just going to do the same thing, but the inverse. So basically taking the same route, but the other direction, because we need to know what is nearby. We know that there is a bunch of pulsars nearby, which are going to be useful. This is most likely Alpha Centauri, and there should be a classic planet in there anyway, a continental world. So let's speed up things a little bit. We are currently 10 months into the first year, and already we're having quite a lot of fun, and that's important in the game trying to understand what is important and just have fun with it. It's especially since 2.2 came out, which is what this particular video is an update for, the game has become a lot more deliberate in terms of its setup, making sure that we can get our economy properly rolling, making sure that we have enough resources to support our fleets, that sort of thing. And it's far more an economic simulator as well as a sci-fi simulator now, which is something that is really, really good, especially considering the mid-game desperately needed that. Anyway, so we got 209 minerals. And I would really like to get 400. Why would I would like to get 400? Well, we want to build a new alloy foundry, which would cost us 400 minerals in total. And here is also our first event. We'll click this one away. We'll get back to that shortly. So right now, our scientist has found a artifact on Voon 2A, which is this system over here. That is a pulsar, and basically what they have found is the artifact of a long forgotten alien empire. And well, if we find 6 of them, we may be able to find their capital. Especially with the First League, we may be able to find, well, a Ecumenopolis. Wouldn't that be cool? Very interesting. So that chain has now started. We go to the situation log. The precursors, the First League has now been discovered, and we'll be able to maybe find their home systems, as long as we find enough First League artifacts. And that's kind of what we want to do in the midterm. So, talking about Earth, and more particularly of that alloy factory. Now we are at the point where we are going to need to find more jobs, because we only have 24 workers for 24 jobs, which means we need to increase the amount of, well, jobs on the planet, basically. So what do we do here, ASpec? Well, we don't have enough minerals, but we can resolve this. We're going to take a look at the market. So if we click on either the market button, which is right here, or hit F3, or we can just hit click on minerals or food or consumer goods or alloys and even energy. Any of these will open up the market. So we want to get more minerals. Can we get more minerals? Yes, we can. How can we get more minerals? By selling some food, by selling some consumer goods, and then we should be able to buy a bunch of minerals and almost have enough to get our next building underway. So right now we're sitting on 389 minerals, make that 400, which means now that we have enough resources to build that alloy foundry. And that alloy foundry is going to do the following. First of all, it is going to add 2 specialist jobs to our planet under specialists. Now that means instead of having 2 metallurgists, we will have 4 of them produce using 24 minerals to produce a total of 8 alloys. Now here's the problem. Those specialists will be recruited from the base worker pool. And it could be anything. It could be farmers, it could be minerals, miners, it could be technicians, or it could be the clerks. What happens here is that potentially we could have a loss of some mining income because those jobs need to be filled, and lower class workers will automatically fill the jobs of specialists. And then we'll just need to wait for our population to grow, which is going to be in a little while. It's gonna take about 20 months or so for our next pops to get into position. So yeah, we're building this here alloy foundry. Once again, it's really important to never overproduce your districts or buildings. If you do not have a population to fill the jobs, then you're just going to have a ton of specialists, but no workers to actually sustain your economy. Make sure that you never do that. It's very important. We have found Alpha Centauri, Alpha Centauri 3, a size 3
survey complete.
continental world. It's a little bit on the small side, and we don't know a lot of details about it just yet, but welcome to Alpha Centauri. This is a trinary system. That means there is 3 stars, 1 G-type star, 1 K-class, and this should be a red dwarf class M, if I'm not entirely mistaken. Yes, I am good at the spectral classes. So whilst our science ship is doing that, it's time for us to get into the expansion phase of the game. We have enough alloys and we have enough influence to do the following. Let's right click on this system here and let's build a outpost for only 63 influence and 85 alloys. We're getting a discount in this particular case. Why? Because once again, our leader is a expansionist. That means that we get a bonus to cost of Starblaze influence, which is what we're building right now, as well as the outpost build cost, which is what we're also doing at the same time, which is excellent. It means that we have more flexibility and we can do a lot more stuff. Looks like we have another pulsar in this system. Okay, that is great. Overall, this is actually not a bad start because we have 2 pulsars back to back. Now, for a beginner, that is not really all that important. However, for a player like myself, pulsars are actually really important from a gameplay strategy point of view. Why do you ask? Well, pulsars destroy any semblance of shields on the ships. So if we go, for instance, to our ship designer and we click on our Corvette, you'll notice that we have small deflectors. Those don't work inside of these systems. So that's something you want to keep in mind for potential long-term expansion. Now, we just had this little thing come to the bottom. Welcome to Traditions. Wow, it's kind of mind-blowing. It's, for those of you who have played some Civ, you may notice this, you may recognize this a little bit. Welcome to the Traditions screen. What traditions do is that for every single tradition that we unlock, and every tradition has its own little sub-tradition, we will get ourselves a special Ascension perk. Now, Ascension perk, we can only unlock 8 of them, and we have 7 in total. We get 7 Ascension perks from the trees and 1 through tech, but that's super late game, so you don't need to worry about that. But right now, we're going to need to make a decision on what we want to do with our setup. Do we want to be discoverers? Do we want to be economists? Do we want to dominate? Do we want to expand very quickly? Do we want to reign supreme in space? These are all very important questions to ask because every single one of these will give us a nice starter bonus. And for instance, for discovery, we will get a anomaly research speed bonus. For diplomacy, there's some diplomacy related stuff that we don't really need right now because we don't really have anybody to be diplomatic with. We got prosperity, which increases mining station output by 10%, which could seriously boost our economy. Expansion, which would allow our colonies to develop quicker. Domination, which would allow us to clear blockers. We will talk about that shortly, at least a little bit quicker as well. And harmony, which would help our population with food. However, a good starter for expansion is, well, obviously expansion, because it will lower the cost of expanding things in general. However, I personally would like to go for discovery. It used to be a lot stronger, but it's still, in my personal opinion, one of the de facto starters, mainly due to the polytechnic education trait that we can put on our empire, where our leaders will gain experience quicker. Yes, there is experience in this game. And the more experienced they are, the more efficiently they will work, which is exactly what we want.
Construction complete.
Good. We are ready to... We have just expanded for the very first time, and it's time to start exploiting resources. So we right-click on this system, and there is a single stellar object with 2 energy in here, and we're going to go and mine that, which is, of course, very exciting. Once again, we want to make sure that we only mine the energy and mineral complexes, because it's very important that we don't really run our economy into the ground by doing slightly too much on the research side. Now, I've just queued up a bunch of additional science routes, mainly because I know a little bit more about this particular area of space, so this could be an interesting area to start researching. Also, it is a constellation-related area, which is great for us because it means to become block-off space here, here, and here. Nobody will be able to get into here without us allowing them to. Cool. So, we have managed to build our first system. We're exploiting that. We currently cannot exploit the gas because we need the exotic gas extraction technology. So let's send over the construction ship over towards Alpha Centauri, which is already looking to be a very large system with potentially a lot of resources in it. Now, the first star was a bit of a dud. Alpha Centauri B did not have a lot of stuff around it. However, Alpha Centauri A may have some potential here. So we'll let everything mosey along. In the meantime, we just finished our alloy foundry. It will get clustered with the other alloy foundry. And as you can see, we now have 26 jobs available for 24 pops. So let's go quickly down towards the population center. And as you can see, 2 pops have been promoted to that specialist class of metallurgists. 24 minerals are now being produced for 9 materials. So that's decent, but that just means that we do not have enough population to work the lowest classes. So once again, we want to make sure that our population and our job amount is pretty much on par with itself, or else we're going to run into some serious basic resource problems. Okay, so far we seem to be doing quite well.
Anomaly found.
And we have finally found our first anomaly. So we have a small... so the anomalies are usually listed as a level. This particular anomaly is a level 3 anomaly, and it's the docking hatch. Now we can go and research it, and basically what will happen is this particular science ship that found it will automatically put it on the top of its priority queue and see if it can research something. Now it's found a hatch over here, so who knows what's lying underneath that. It's just a docking hatch, so maybe something interesting is inside here. Who knows? Meanwhile, our construction ship is just on standby. It does not have a lot to do at the moment. It's just sitting near the star where the new station is going to be built once our science ship gets its stuff together. But still, yeah, it should be pretty good. Now, we have another slot available, and it may be incredibly enticing to build another building. And in all honesty, we kind of need one. However, considering our population and jobs are not set up in parallel, it's currently not a good idea to build yet another building, because more specialists will pop up and they will take resources away from our core workers. And we definitely don't want to undermine our core workers. Now, it looks like our anomaly has worked out. We found ourselves some pirate treasure inside of this asteroid. And we got 379 mineral energy for it. That is great for us because it means that we can use that energy to buy something if we need to. We can use it to buy more alloys if we need to have more ships. We can use it on consumer goods if we want to distribute those to the masses, which is something that we should probably do. So let's take a look at our decisions. So luxury goods distributed is a decision that we can do on this planet. And basically what it will do is it will allow more growth on this planet, and also the amount of amenities produced on this planet would be great. However, right now, it's actually probably not a good idea to do it because immigration pull does not really apply to us right now, considering we have not made first contact yet, and we're only a singular ship, and only a singular planet. Alright, it looks like we have got... Oh, wow. Okay, so Alpha Centauri 3 is a size 13 planet. Which is actually not all that interesting. Why? Because it has the atmospheric hallucinogen modifier. And on top of that, it does not have any rare planetary features. And in addition, it doesn't really have all that many districts. However, our second science ship right now is in the Sirius system, which I believe is a Class A star. And the other one is what? A C? An F even. And it looks like there's 2 planets in here that are very, very interesting to us. We've got Sirius 2, which once again is a size 13 planet. It sadly does not have many rare planetary resources on it. However, what is interesting to us is the second planet it found, which is a size 23, which is probably, it's one of the larger sizes you can find. It goes all the way up to 25, and we don't know what kind of resources it has on here. It could be excellent. In addition, at Proxima Centauri, we found some motes, which is once again one of these super rare materials in space that we currently do not have the technology to harvest. And the fact that we found gas and motes next to each other is pretty incredible. If this system has crystals, then I will probably continue playing on this particular playthrough just as a private play. Anyway, we have another tradition available to us because we've generated enough unity. So let's take a look what our options are. We can go for Boldly Go, which will increase our survey speed by 35%. And we can have more research alternatives. So the research alternatives will lead us to polytechnic education, which in my personal opinion is one of the best in the game. And faith in science, which means that all researchers will have their upkeep reduced by 20%. However, to boldly go is pretty good. Survey speed increased by 35%. I do kind of want to take this, if possible. So let's go with that, and then we'll fill out the rest of the tree later on. Meanwhile, on Earth, we currently have 25 pops and still 26 jobs, so we don't need to do anything there. Let's hope that Sirius 3 is an excellent planet for us to survey and take control of. So the science ship right now is on the verge of taking a look at Sirius 3. We've got 4 tile blockers. It is a humongous planet, 23, with a lot of mining districts, a reasonable amount of agricultural districts, and generator districts. This means that this is an excellent place to do some expansion into, which is what we're going to do. First of all, we are going to claim Alpha Centauri, because we definitely want to have these space alloys as well as the volatile modes, because they are worth a fortune on the market. And on top of that, our other spaceships are currently... very hard. An ancient precursor civilization. So, remember when I was talking about the ancient precursors earlier on? Well, it looks like we just found one of their setups. One of their little missions. This is an extremely difficult piece of anomaly to do, and it's going to take us over 3 years. I don't think that's a good idea right now, because our scientist is not nearly good enough to speed up the process. So let's leave it for now, and then send it on to what's the next place.
System survey complete.
Okay, so habitable world survey will give us a bunch of influence. Basically, you will get this mission every single game.
Situation log updated.
And basically it asks us, hey, we want to survey 8 habitable worlds. I think that's fairly straightforward. Now, in the meantime, we need to have this system surveyed for various reasons. Mainly because we want to get access to Sirius 3 as soon as possible. Now, as you noticed, right now we do not have this particular ship set up so that it's going to survey this place. That's of course a problem. So what we can do is we can actually order it to survey this system without it losing all of its stuff. So for instance, if we would go here, survey, all the other missions will be disabled. And obviously we do not want that. So we go back to survey, hold shift, and make sure that we survey all the other stuff. Now, obviously, you will have this set up. You don't want to reset it, so you want to survey this system. What you can do is you can hold Control and Shift and click on the system you want to survey, and automatically that particular item, that option, that order will be put to the top of the list of the said ship, which is incredibly useful. It will it will make your life a lot easier. And I highly recommend that you go and do it if you can. Wow, this system is completely isolated. That is kind of cool. Let's go and prioritize that one. Why do I say it's isolated? It has no hyperlanes coming out of it except for the one from Alpha Centauri. So who knows what is in there? This also means that Buaway, as well as whatever this system is, are the most critical systems in our constellation, because they are the only ways into this particular area. So we can control this constellation in the near future. We'll be in a really good spot. All right, Bernard Star, level 5 anomaly we found. It would take us a year to survey, and I don't want to do it because we need to get our construction ship over there as soon as we can, just so that we can get the station set up over here. Now we're producing alloys and energy in space. We found ourselves a size 16 tropical world in Procyon. Let's actually take a look at what that is going to be. I'm very curious here. So let's prioritize that immediately by hitting Control Shift. Let's see what we can find here. Now we're very rapidly approaching the 6-year marker. Did we find anything cool? This is actually a relatively weak world. No rare planetary tiles. That is just unfortunate. Okay, so we have surveyed Bernard Star. So we're going to right click on that and build a star base there immediately.
Anomaly found.
Strange mountain formations. No, we can research that. That is not a problem. So we're just waiting for this guy to build its starbase. We're now moving on fastest.
Construction
Good.
complete.
And then we need to find Sirius. We're going to ignore the energy in the system. We want to take control of this system as fast as we can. In the meantime, Earth has as many jobs as it has population. That's great for us, because it means that we can build yet another building that will help us support our nation. Civilian industries seems to be like a good idea, because it will produce consumer goods that we can basically use to support our economy. Some kind of massive fleet action and a gigantic skeleton.
Situation log updated.
So we found a special event in space, an anomaly that is so important that it's put on our situation log, which is the investigate giant skeleton. So what we can do here is, once again, we can select a ship, control shift, and research this project, and we will automatically start doing this project. Now we can get all sorts of cool stuff out of this, most likely a bunch of tech tiles on that planet to basically make things more interesting. Now we got more unity once again. Maybe we should get science division, where we get more opportunities to get tech. And of course, once again, that brings us to polytechnic education. So there's quite a lot of really cool stuff that we can do. But the game obviously is relatively complex with it. Feel free to play around with it a little bit, because it is still important that you understand some of the systems. Good. So, Sirius 3, a size 23 continental world, orbiting a Class A star, seems to be an excellent location for our first colony. So, what are we going to do here? Well, we're going to hit the colonize button. Once we hit the colonize button, we will see what kind of population we want to send to the star for 200 food, 200 alloys. Now you know why we built that additional alloy foundry, and 200 consumer goods. And now you know why I wanted to build the additional consumer good factory. So let's send that out. Let's give it a cool name for the colony. Perfect. And we have ourselves a colony in the queue. And those are basically the first 6 years of the game. I feel that we've effectively covered pretty much everything in terms of your initial setup. We've talked about the economy, exploration, how to expand, how to exploit. We sadly did not cover extermination, because we sadly didn't find anything to exterminate, but we can jump on that for a future video. That will be a nice follow-up on this one. So yeah, first 6 years in space, together with the UNE in the Sol system, with a great start. And I do hope that you will have a lot of fun with this as well. So just to quickly recap, make sure you never build more than you have to, because it is expensive. And on top of that, it will also impact your empire size, which is something I actually did not cover. There's this empire size button up here. It says that has an administrative cap of 30. Right now we're using 21. Don't be afraid to go over it. It doesn't really have all that much impact. It's only a suggestion. If you go over this, basically what happens is you will get a couple of modifiers saying, hey, you're overspending, therefore things are going to cost a little bit more. This is not really an issue whatsoever. Anyway, we're going to go and wrap it up here. We'll be back again next time in this tutorial series on Stellaris 2.2, and we're going to be taking a little bit of a deeper look at the economy, and maybe also scaling things up a little bit to see what we can do. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope that this video was useful to you, that you learned something, because in the end, learning is fun. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Just put a comment down below. That's why I'm here. If you got any additional questions, that's perfectly fine. More importantly, go and have fun. Until next time, take good care of yourselves, and as always, each other.